Hello, hello. I'm just checking that we are live in the Facebook group. We are. Oh, got sound now. Hang on. Didn't want to do that. Because I'm just going to do an @ everyone and say that we are live. If you are coming on, please say hello. We'd love to see who's here with us this evening. Just a very informal little session this evening. And I'll tell you where it all came from in just a second. So I'm just sending that everyone. Fab. Everything is as it should be. It's always that hairy moment when you go live through streaming software that you're actually live in the right place at the right time and that it's all working properly. Because since they changed it, since Facebook changed all the live streaming rules, it's not as easy to just go live in your group anymore. But we are here. We are where we should be. And it's lovely to see my bestie, Kellie Jones. Thank you for being here again this evening. We saw you a few months ago talking about self-love and all things love. And I said that we would get you back to talk about astrology and moon things and stuff. And this was a really good opportunity to do that. Kellie and I see each other regularly, and at some point or another in our conversations, astrology always comes into the conversation. I can't remember a time actually where we haven't actually said my sun sign, your sun sign, your ascendant, or something or another in terms of astrology comes into our conversations everywhere. And for those of you who don't know, I'm actually doing an AI art course at the moment, creating images and bits. If you've seen the Glow Club this morning, I actually put the astrology images that I created into the Glow Club. And I was creating those images and I was having conversations with Kellie about astrology. And I suddenly thought, well, if astrology impacts on our everyday lives and who we are and our character and everything, it's got to have some kind of impact on aging as well. Surely how we age has to have some kind of, our astrology and our makeup has to have some kind of impact on that. There's not a lot of information out there about it though.
No.
So I did the bare minimum in my blog. My blog is all about it this month. So it's kind of all timely, just bringing the whole thing in together. And I thought, I know who I'll ask. I know who I'll bring on to discuss this topic a little bit better. So welcome, Kellie. Thank you for coming back into the Glow Club. Very short notice, I know, because I only asked you last week.
It's okay.
Hello, Kellie.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here. And anyone who sees me can see that my my cat has joined us. She loves to do a live. She loves to join on Zoom calls and moon ceremonies. And she is currently making herself comfortable on my lap. So if you see me fidgeting, that's why.
She is more than welcome. We love her here.
And if you hear purring, she has a very loud purr. So.
It's all good, all good.
We'll all be asleep by the end.
Yeah.
Well, I hope not. I hope our conversation's going to be more interesting.
No, but we'll be lulled into the sense of serenity by her purr, which is lovely.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a really interesting and intriguing subject to have brought up.
Yes.
As you say, I've done quite a considerable amount of research, and there really isn't much out there on this subject in relation to astrology. Most of it I can see is connected to Vedic astrology, which is the Indian form of astrology. They seem to be quite into wanting to know, about longevity and things like that. So there's definitely some Vedic astrology information out there, but not an awful lot else. So
okay,
using our wisdom and knowledge from what we already know
we'll
to
see where we go. First of all, though, because you know, I was brought up on astrology. My mum has been into astrology since I was 3 years old, so I was brought up on it. You've always had an absolute fascination and interest in it, and you're obviously studying it to sort of a very deep level. But for those who are watching that might not understand what astrology is, can you just give us a very brief? I mean, it's such a complex thing, but just in a nutshell, because most people think, oh, I'll just read my horoscope in the newspaper.
yeah. And it has been like lots of things that are very useful for us to know and to get to know ourselves. They've been shrunk into the smallest space possible and sort of made into something that, you know, we should believe in because it's a load of old rubbish. But actually, the astrology that I'm studying is ancient astrology, which goes back thousands of years. And, you know, before they even had paper, they used to write on scrolls, and before that on cuneiform tablets, and before that just through stories. And astrology was originally, you know, wise people sitting observing the cycles in relation to the planets and noticing that they have cycles and how that affects us down here on Earth. So that really, you know, that's where it all started from. But for us all personally, the moment that we come into or onto the Earth, so the moment that we're born, in your birth chart, everybody has their own unique blueprint of themselves. So just like our DNA and things like that, we have our own astrological birth chart, which is, you know, to get it really accurate to you so you can really see your birth chart, you do need to know your time of birth, or as near to that time of birth as possible, because that does actually make a difference. Because where it's easy to see where our sun is, because where the sun is, it's slower moving. The moon moves every 2.5 days, so obviously we need to, you know the day to know that. But the other thing that's really important for us to really get that individual, what am I all about from my birth chart, is to know our ascendant. So that is the so if you've got the zodiac wheel, it looks like a big pizza with 12 slices in it. Each slice is what they call a house, which they originally used to call a place or a temple. And each one of those has a different meaning to your area of your life. So slice 1 is what is known as your ascendant. So it's where which sign was on the horizon at the moment you were born. So to the east. So wherever that sign was on the horizon, coming over the horizon at the moment you were born, is called your ascendant or your rising sign, because it was rising over the horizon. And to know your rising, where your moon is based in your chart and where your sun is, gives you a nice basic, more in-depth version of yourself. It helps to explain yourself a lot more. Then there's all the other planets and where they were situated, which then how they're all aspected to each other is how it makes it even more individual to you. So,
and I know that it's complicated. I've never had brain power to really. I kind of work with my sun sign and my ascendant, and that will do me.
yeah. Well, the easiest way to explain it, to give it a real sort of like easy explanation, if we just use those 3 things, is the sun, which we all know as our star sign, where the sun is what we would know as our sign. So my sun is in the sign of Cancer, so that would make me essentially a Cancerian. But the sun in your lifetime, think of it, if your life was a movie, the sun is the plot line of the movie. So it's like the story that's going to play out. So I'm going to have a Cancerian plot line. Yours is going to be Aquarian. But then our rising sign is the character that we play in the movie. So when I'm off screen, I'm Cancerian. So when I'm on my own, I'm probably more Cancerian. But the me that you see is more the rising sign. It's the character, it's the identity, and it's how you come across in your movie to others. So quite often if I enter a room, people might see me as a Sagittarius, because I'm a Sagittarius rising, and Sagittarius tend to be quite adventurous and a bit more risk taking, and they're into things like astrology and philosophy and higher learning. But then internally, our internal world, which we would know as our inner environment, would be much more determined by where your moon is. So the moon represents your emotion, how you are emotionally on the inside of you, because the moon represents the subconscious and the sun represents the conscious. So quite often people say the sun is related to the ego, which I don't really like that, but that's a really easy way to explain it. So it's that, conscious you, and then that internal unconscious, all the mysterious stuff that is in the dark is the moon. So my moon is in Virgo, my sun is in Cancer, and my rising sign is Sagittarius. And so those three things help me to have a better understanding of how and why I do things and why I am the way that I am.
You just explain it, because I've never heard it explained like that, and that was just such a brilliant analogy. And I'm just sat here thinking, oh, now I understand myself a little bit. Because I'm an Aquarian sun, I'm a Gemini rising, so total air, and then I've got Capricorn moon. So it's kind of like, okay, cold, and a little bit more cold then.
But
I have got a lot of warmth in me.
But in my research, and some of the stuff that we already knew anyway about star signs, is that inside you're emotionally Capricorn, but Capricorn represents one of the things that it represents bones and structure, because it's very Saturnian. Its ruling planet is Saturn, but it also represents the skin.
There you go.
Capricorn it represents the skin, and Saturn, where your Saturn is, can be dependent on how your skin is.
Yeah, I've got the Aquarian humanitarian, and sort of the healing side of things. Capricorn obviously for the skin, and then the Gemini who can just talk for Britain.
Yeah, and your changeability. So how you've changed how you come across to the world over time. You've had sort of like a complete change of like, right, this is me, I'm just going to cut all my hair off and study AI, which is very Aquarian.
Yeah, that was a shock to my friends and family as much as it was to anybody else, because I just got up and did it. I didn't tell anybody I was doing it. I text my hairdresser 2 days before, and she was like, oh. It was like, and then I just announced myself to the world, here you go. So
yeah, and I mean other things to do with appearance. So if I give the example, who I know best is myself. So where your Venus is, so Venus is all to do with beauty and how we feel about ourselves, so how we value ourselves, our self-worth. So where your Venus is in your chart can help you to understand that subject. It's also relative to money, but we're not talking about that tonight, but we are talking about beauty. So in general, my Venus is in the sign of Leo, and Leo loves to be seen. It's the star of the show. So hence my hair color changing all the time. So I've got a very Leo mane at the moment. It's very fire sign going on. It's very Sagittarius fire as well. So, you know, there's this sort of urge in me sometimes to be seen. And then my default mode, if I'm feeling low, you know, so if we get to a dark moon day, so when the moon goes dark and you can't see it for like a couple of days because it's just becoming new again, those days when you want to go inside, that's when my Cancerian, that's when I want to go into my shell and not be seen, no matter what color my hair is. You know, so but these, knowing all these things can help you. Instead of getting frustrated with yourself, you can say, right, okay, it's a dark moon day today. You know, this is not a good day to put my new thing out there and to show myself off to the world. I'll leave it until the moon is, you know, new again, and or when it's full and it's really shining bright, that's when we might want to, you know, put
So
ourselves.
I'm Venus in Aquarius. My Venus is in Aquarius. Very Aquarian people. So my Venus is in Aquarius. So what does that? Just strange.
Well, I mean, Aquarius tends to, I mean, like, it sounds like a weird word, but Aquarius can be described as being quite androgynous. Androgynous. So it's kind of like, it's not too female and it's not too male. It's somewhere in between. It's quite balanced, I think. You know, you've got a good balance, haven't you?
Well, golden brain.
Golden brain. Yeah.
I have. I did this brain
What has
test.
you got, the Gemini brains?
Yeah, I did this brain test, and people are either left-brained or right-brained. And I was basically totally equally balanced in the two. And I did the test three. Do you remember? I did it 3 times, and I got the same result. Came out as golden brains, as they call it, which is balanced each side 3 times.
Yeah.
So
Right, and I'm right brain. I'm very right brained. I'm very cancer. So my Cancerian side makes me be very much in my emotions. You know, it's very emotional, which tends to be all over on this right brain side, and it has a hard time systemizing things. So that's when I come to you. I borrow your left brain, please, to help me, you know, work this out. And how do I do this technology? Because my, you know, Aquarians are much more technology minded than Cancerians are.
love all that technology.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
let's how do you feel about if we go through each star sign in turn, because I'm sure I don't know if we've got any watchers this evening. You can't see who's watching anymore because you don't have the sort of comments or anything up. So if you're watching, please pop a post in, say hi, let us know what star sign you are, and we can you know, have it. Or if you've got a question about your star sign, we can try and answer it for you. But let's go through what we in terms of, I know you've done a little bit of homework on how star signs age, and obviously we've got what I put in the blog as well. But we'll start with the first sign of the zodiac, the spirited warrior, the Aries.
Yes, and Aries, I always say that, you know, the zodiac is circular, so there is really no beginning and no end. It's continuous and infinite. But us humans, we like to have you know, a 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 thing going on. So, and we like to have a beginning and an end. And so we can think of, if we think of, we get to April and it's the beginning of the new tax year, and it's spring when everything starts to be new again. And Aries is the beginning of the zodiac. So it's like the newborn baby. It's also related to the Fool in the tarot. So it's the one who takes the leap of faith. Aries will go head first because it's very much, it's a fire sign, and it'll go head first. It's also a cardinal sign, and cardinal signs, without going too deep into that, tend to be natural leaders. So they like to go first. They'll do something first and then let everybody else come afterwards and follow. And so, but they will do it going headfirst into it. So if we relate it to new products for skin, you know, they'll probably like smother it all over. I'll try it, I'll be the one who experiments with it, you know, and they'll deal with the consequences afterwards. You know, it might like make their face come up in allergy or something, but you know, that they'll tend to dive into it real full steam ahead. That, and but they're also the pioneer, you know, the beginning of newness. So that is you know,
Aries.
enthusiasm.
Yeah,
You know,
youthful
sometimes
energy,
overbearing enthusiasm. So, you know,
but
the
they're
advice
youthful.
we'd give to an Aries is like, you know, if it is a new skin product or a new skin regime or whatever, is to maybe just stop for a moment, breathe.
Yeah, they're
Read the packet first.
full of youthful energy and passion, and diving right in. And the tip that I did for Aries actually was to take stock, slow down, and something you can, because you go at everything sort of full pelt, a little bit of yoga, a little bit of tai chi, a little bit of self-love time.
Yeah.
Will help you no end. And
Mm.
as we all know, a little bit of self-love goes a long way in anti-aging.
Yeah. And also to bear in mind that even that they could probably be overzealous about as well. So you know, I'm thinking of one person I know in particular, you know, who started meditating, but would meditate for like a whole day. It's like spending a whole week in meditation, you know, like just going full steam into it. So as I said, you know, our sun sign is only one part of us. So if we tend to be a little bit very much that, if that particular sign is very strong in our chart, it would be to look at what the opposite sign is. So what is the opposite to you, and how could you tap into that a little bit to balance out your tendency to overdo things? So the opposite of Aries is Libra, which is all about balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, I was going to say an Aries needs a Libra friend.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And they are the opposite. So Aries is very much me, all about me, and Libra is very much all about others. So they can people please a little bit. So, you know, we would always look to that opposing sign to see where we could maybe bring some of that into ourselves. Yeah.
Interesting. So let's have a little look at Taurus. Taurus, the steady nurturer, very earthy people.
Yeah, they love, you know, like I've got my cat on my lap here, so they love luxurious, pleasurable, strokey, very kinesthetic.
Tactile people, aren't they?
Yeah. They love food. Food is usually a thing for a Taurus, but definitely luxuries. They like to, you know, money would be quite important to them because Taurus's ruler is Venus. So all things beauty and pleasure and money.
They're a little bit fixed though, so they don't like change
They
too much.
don't like change, no, very slow to change. Yeah, they need, a Taurus would need to change gradually. So if we were applying it to maybe starting face yoga or starting a new skincare routine, it would be to change one small thing at a time and add one small thing at a time, so they can do it gradually, change it. Not like Aries, you'll probably just go blast it out and just start, this is the new thing. Yeah, they're very different in that way.
Aries would do face yoga all day. Taurus needs 5 minutes 3 times a week.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, Yeah. And, you know, once again, look into your opposing sign. So, you know, well, we're quite fixed and fixed, really. So the opposing sign is quite fixed as well, which is your Scorpio. But Scorpio is water and a bit more intense, but you'd always want to look into that opposing sign to see what it is that you could help to balance you out a bit.
So with my tips for the Taurians in the blog was embrace flexibility into your routine, welcome new phases of life, and indulge and continue to indulge yourself in your love of beauty and tactileness and holistic stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, they'd probably love to sort of grow something and make their own lovely luxurious product as well.
Yeah, we've got little Eli's Taurus with Scorpio ascendant, so it's what?
That's quite balanced because
Yeah.
they're opposing signs.
Okay, so next one, Gemini, the ageless communicator. They do like to talk. I can vouch for that.
Yeah, so you know, Gemini is like the opposite to the Sagittarius. So where Sagittarius like to do, Sagittarius is more likely to sort of write the Bible, whereas Gemini is likely to be a journalist for a magazine. You know,
I think the Gemini mind is very kind of, it can be very flitty and fast. And I think, and as somebody with Gemini rising, it takes something really quite deep to hold my attention for a very long time.
Yeah, short courses are good.
Because I literally cannot watch the television without writing or creating something on my computer. I can't do one thing at a time. I have to have my attention focused in two places. And I find to just sit and do nothing for a Gemini is really challenging. Physically I can sit and do nothing, but my brain has to be doing at least two things at once.
Yeah, but then that to me says that, you know, if we were talking about doing face yoga, then you'd be quite happy to be sitting watching a movie and using your gua sha at the same time.
Yeah,
that seems like the perfect.
Yes, it absolutely is, because I tend to be so when I do most of my face yoga is actually when I'm sitting in the evening, I'll be typing something, going pulling funny faces while I'm doing some work. But so for a Gemini, bear in mind we're kind of sort of, this is the heart. I know it's kind of very loosely based in anti-aging, but to anti-aging really is a state of mind. And that's where I'm coming at with, or where we are coming at with this. It isn't that your star sign is making you think this way about aging. What we're trying to do with this conversation really is to get you to have a little bit of understanding about what makes you who you are, so that you can understand what you need to do to counteract some of that, to take you into a mindset where you're self-loving, right? Because anti-aging really and truly is predominantly about self-love, being in a peaceful state, making sure you're feeding yourself right, making sure you're doing the right things in the right space. And so by understanding that you might go at everything at hammer and tongs, and that you might not be able to rest your mind and all the rest of it, actually the opposite of that is the thing that you need to do to actually get yourself into an anti-aging state. Would you agree with that?
I would, yeah, but I also think, you know, depending on how strong each of the signs are in our birth chart. So obviously the more planets and are in a sign, the more of that sign that you're going to have. But so I would say that to me, Gemini is a youthful spirit anyway. And if we use, I think we use my mum in the self-love talk, but you know, I'm going to use my mum again. My mum's has her moon in Gemini, and she definitely has this youthfulness about her way and her, you know, her mindset and how she approaches life. And you know, it might not necessarily have kept her skin necessarily young, but it's definitely kept her young in general, you know, in her whole equilibrium, her energy. So there's a youthfulness to Geminis that they definitely want to, you know, tap into. And if it's your opposing sign, then that would be where your balance is like, you know, how can I stop being so like serious and deep into philosophy and, you know, kind of get a bit more light-hearted and a bit more youthfulness playtime. Yeah.
Cool.
But obviously the other thing that I was thinking as well is each sign is obviously represents an element. So you've got your water, fire, earth and air. And so in relation to things like Ayurveda and stuff, they would look at, in Chinese medicine, they always look to see where you've got too much heat, too much cool, too much dry, too much wet. So that would be another thing that would be worth considering looking at your birth chart as well, is, you know, am I to this or to that? Where can I, you know, maybe if you're an air sign, you need more hydration. You know, this is something just to contemplate. It's not something I'm saying is true.
Yeah, no.
You know, if you look at your chart and you're very predominantly air, or you're very predominantly Saturn, then you might have like a dryness. Or if you're, you know, watery, you might have too much excess moisture in your body. So I think there's something in that.
Yeah, interesting. So let's move into your sign, Cancer, the emotional healer.
Yes, the nurse.
Yes.
So yeah, well, I mean, Cancerians, they're very sensitive, and not necessarily, that doesn't necessarily mean sensitive in their skin, but emotionally sensitive. And definitely, if you're, the more emotionally sensitive you are to your external environment and how much it affects you, can cause anxiety, you know. So how you're feeling can make a difference to your skin and your health. So from, again, going from my own story, I know that skin conditions, particularly things like acne, things that are very like flared up on the face, that are like almost like a barrier to the world, can be to do with feeling under attack. And Cancerians are very sensitive to criticism, you know, what other people think. They want everything to be nice and lovely in the world. So the skin can react to that, and my skin definitely from a very young age started to react to how I was feeling, you know, in the world, confidence and things like that, and maybe feeling under attack, you know, from a bully or somebody who's got quite a strong character. You know, our skin can reflect how we are feeling on the inside, for sure. So if you know that you're super sensitive, then doing things to alleviate that sensitivity, you know, really doing things to help you with your self-worth and your feeling of security, and, you know, not to spend so much time around, I mean, it's hard when you're at school, I know, but not to spend so much time around people that you feel under attack from, because but yeah, surrounding yourself with loved ones is definitely, I think that's one of your tips.
Yeah, it's kind of looking at the, you know, age, the aging aspect of a Cancerian is tied into emotions.
Yeah.
And surrounding
as
yourself
I've
with loved ones and maintaining strong connections that really nurture your heart center.
yeah, yeah. And so, you know, the fact that I set up the self-love club, what was it, nearly 10 years ago now, with over that time my skin has improved. I don't suffer with the skin problems that I seem to have forever. It's definitely changed since I've
It was around that time when you started really getting into the self-love work, your skin changed hugely
yeah,
around that time.
yeah. So
It
that
works, you
really
know.
is your inner, you know, how you're feeling emotionally. If you know that you are quite sensitive, then it is taking action to help you with that. So things like, you know, getting on my yoga mat to help me feel safe inside myself definitely helps, reflects in
Skin.
the skin.
Love it. Leo. I put the Radiant Queen because obviously most of my readers are women, but I always kind of see the Leo as a king. Really,
Yeah.
he's
Mm-hmm.
to me, and I, because they have no gender, but to me, Leo is the man of the zodiac.
Yeah. And you know, going back to that ancient astrology thing, the sun is the king and the moon is the queen. The sun is the ruler and the moon is the people. So the moon is the feminine, the sun is the masculine.
And Leo's ruler is the sun, isn't it?
And the ruler of Leo is the sun.
Yeah.
So it likes to be, you know, it's daytime. It likes to be seen, likes to be out there. It's, you know, it can have a large ego. And, you know, if you know that, then you can forgive yourself for that, you know, because people always talking about getting rid of our egos. You know, you can't. You just maybe temper it if it's got out of hand. But, you know, it's
we
the
all
more
need a little bit of ego, otherwise we wouldn't get through the day.
we do. Yeah. Yeah. And obviously where all the different planets are in if somebody wanted to go deeper into this, then when you look at your own individual birth chart, even though the sun is the ruler of Leo, the sun isn't necessarily in Leo, you know, so it's where is the sun in relation to that? You know, what's going on in your Leo sign? Where is the sun? Is it hidden? You know, so, you know, how can we bring that out a little bit? So
in here, Leos like to invest in their appearance, but they also shine from within. They've got leadership qualities, and they do like to be the centre of attention. So to counterbalance that, it's basically, yes, be the leader in your community, embrace the strong power that you are, but use that in a way to support and teach others. You know, you've got this spirit that is really, if you choose to do so, you can bring a lot of wisdom to other people, and that would kind of counteract and balance Leo's out.
And again, look at your opposite. What's the opposite to you? Well, the opposite to the Leo is the Aquarius. And there you have, not saying that Aquarius is a cold-hearted, but there you have like that cool and heat thing going on, the fire and the air.
I think I was thinking of, because they do say Aquarians are I think Aquarians are actually analytical. Right. So and because we can have that, we can switch that off. We sometimes can switch the emotion off and become very analytical and logical about things.
Yeah. Logic. Whereas Leos tend to be all in the heart space.
We're the Vulcans of the star sign.
Vulcans. Yeah. But it's like, it's cooling down that heat a little bit, if you get too heated. And you know, they are about the heart. Even if you were to look at, you know, what sort of health things that they would need to look after, where a Cancerian can get it all in the tummy, because we get so emotionally sensitive, it all goes into our digestive system. You know, Leos can be wounded here a lot, you know, so they need to take care of their hearts, doing things that keep their hearts open. Yeah.
Right, moving into Virgo. This title makes me laugh, because can you think of somebody this describes really well? The health conscious perfectionist. We won't say out loud who, but you know.
Oh my god. Yeah, but you know, it's the everything, every sign, every planet, every house area, everything in life has a higher and a lower expression of itself. So really, all we're talking about here is, you know, if you find yourself being in that lower expression that is preventing you from doing things better, from feeling better, getting in your own way, then, you know, how can you move towards that higher expression? Can you use some of that opposite sign to help you to balance it out if you're going there? And the more you know this stuff, and if you can see yourself going there, then you can go, whoa, okay, you know. So with a Virgo, it would be over perfectionism. So actually almost not doing something in the end because you just can't do it perfectly enough. So I know for me, my moon is in Virgo, so emotionally I'm Virgo. So I like to do things in a Virgo in a perfect way. So one of the reasons I struggle to do the full face yoga routine is because I haven't got the time to sit and do it all properly, because I like to do the whole thing all properly, exactly how you've taught me to do it. Yeah. So I end up not doing it because I can't do it perfectly, because I haven't got enough time to do it all in the right way. So that would be like, you know, right, drop the perfectionism, just do one of those moves perfectly. Mm-hmm. You know, just take one of them, the one that feels the best, and take that.
It's kind of I put in here all the compassion that you give to other people, all the nurturing you give to other people. Yeah. Turn it around and give it to you for a little while.
Yeah, exactly, because, you know, again, going to your opposite sign, what is the most compassionate sign? Pisces. Mm-hmm. And that's the opposite to the Virgo. So you know, from next year, the eclipses will be moving into the Pisces Virgo axis, so we'll be having eclipses in those signs. So, you know, these are, you know, just a little, you know, forewarning there that, you know, change is in the air for Virgo. And Pisces. So, you know, if you're wanting to have some radical change, then the chance to do that is definitely coming up. But Virgo is the sign of health. You know, they quite often can be into alternative health or working in the health sector. So, you know, taking on a health regime and being organised about it would be a benefit for a Virgo. So Virgos probably could fit it, you know.
But what I would say to that, though, is that you could sit and plan it for hours, and if you haven't got it in perfect harmony, you might never start. Yes. So to the Virgos out there who want to start an anti-aging health regime, i.e. diet, whatever you want to do, then it doesn't all have to be in place.
Yeah.
Just, you know, one little step, to, you know, take one step a month. So maybe 1 month you decide you're going to cut out or reduce your sugar intake. That's plenty enough. You don't have to cut your sugar intake down and your wheat intake and your meat intake and just cutting one of those things down is enough, and do that for a month. And then once that's become a habit and you've mastered that one, then move on to the next one. It doesn't all have to be done all at once. You can take tiny little steps. One face yoga move, one acupressure point, one dietary change.
Yeah.
That's a huge step forward.
But I was thinking as well, if you're the sort of person that struggles to be organized with your health, then to partner up with a Virgo person would be a good idea.
Yeah,
definitely.
Right, Scorpio. Manual for Transformation Phoenix.
With Miss Libra.
Oh, have I? Sorry.
Yeah.
I apologise, Libra. I'm going back.
And we're in the sun is in Libra right now, so we're in Libra season.
Yeah.
A good time for talking about this stuff and getting some balance. That's what we've been talking about. Really, is about balancing out our extremes, our extreme expressions that we can tend to go to, particularly if we're not feeling that good about ourselves. We can tend to dip into that lower expression of ourselves, So, and when we know that, if we become more aware of that, that's when we can go, right, okay,
now I'm gonna
see where I'm going. It's time to go meet up with a Libra.
So
Libra is ruled by Venus as well.
So again, they would be sort of people who are who take pride in their appearance, like looking good.
Yeah.
But because of their balance, they're kind of very graceful they're kind of graceful in their acceptance of everything, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. To be perfectly honest, I don't know many Librans. I have to be honest. I don't know many Librans, but I'm always kind of, when I read about them and stuff, and I always think, oh, could do with a bit of that balance.
Yeah, and it's I'm thinking about where you promote the tropics product. Yeah. I think if you were sitting with a Libra and you were telling them about all of them, they'd end up not being able to decide which one to buy for fear of upsetting you in some way. That would be very Libra tendency. I don't know which one to buy. I'll just buy them all, and then that will keep you happy.
Bank, yeah.
Yeah. Making decisions is quite hard but usually because of others. They quite often might not say something for fear of upsetting somebody, so they just sort of agree with everyone.
Yeah, it's kind of like the
got a little thumbs up come on my page there, so I must have a Libra watching.
So the tip for Libra actually was, when you're prioritizing self-care and making decisions, make sure you're supporting your inner balance, even if that takes you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Right. It's okay. It's okay. I will think, it's okay to say no.
Yeah. And again, to your opposing sign, your complete opposite is your Aries. What about me? Yeah. What about me in this? In my routine?
Yeah.
What about me in this? Put me first in this decision. So, if that helps to make a decision on doing something to take care of yourself, then, go to that. What would an Aries do?
Yeah, because your Librans are more likely to think about everybody else first.
All about
and leave themselves feeling diminished in some way. And it's kind of, hang on, let me just grab a little bit of Aries energy here and put me first.
Yeah,
because everybody else is going to be okay. I'll make sure they're okay, but I'm going to put my mask on you know, you're on a plane. I'm going to put my mask on first so that I'm better able to look after everybody else.
Absolutely. Exact advice for a Libra.
Okay, now we'll go to Scorpio.
We come to Scorpio now. Scorpio, the mysterious one. Hey, the deep and
the intense Scorpio.
Yeah, the deepest ocean of them all. So they are water, but they're not just water. They are the bottom of the ocean, and you could keep going down and down and down, and you'll never get to the bottom of a Scorpio.
They don't like to show their vulnerability.
No.
So a Scorpio tend to won't ask for help, really.
No.
And will try and struggle on and do these things on their own. It's not weakness to ask somebody for help.
Yeah. My brother is a Scorpio, and in actual fact, my brother actually has a skin condition from birth that he has. So, and his is actually almost like a lack of moisture in his skin for a water sign. But yeah, he would just keep calm, carry on, brush over it, but they tend to push everything down. So, it wouldn't be a surprise to have an explosion of something suddenly happen, a flare up of something when they've pushed stuff down and not let it out, and then it might all come out in one go with a Scorpio.
I would say sort of something for Scorpions. Breathing exercises is pretty, because it's a way of doing a breath exercise. Is a great way of getting rid of suppressed stuff. So as a self-love exercise, as an anti-aging exercise for Scorpios, even if you just sit there and do 10 nice deep breaths, 10 deep belly breaths, just to release the intensity that you're holding in your body. That would be a really good de-stressor anti-aging exercise for a Scorpion.
Yep. And
what's their opposite sign?
Anti is Taurus, because I was going to say anti ground, to get outside in nature on the earth.
Sitting on the grass doing 10 deep belly breaths. There you go.
That would be, so just sorry, Colin, I don't think Colin's ever going to watch this, but just my brother as an example, because he's what I know.
I might send it to him.
When he was younger, he did suffer with panic attacks, and that was because he's always laughs things off and pushes them down. And actually, even recently, I've said to him, like you need to go do fishing, because he used to go fishing with my dad, and since my dad's not been around, the fishing is sort of onto the wayside. But that would be something that would be really good for my brother. He tends to do racket sports and keep going.
Intense.
Actually, what would be really good for him is to stop, be still, be out in nature, and go do fishing, because that would
ground him,
ground and calm. So it's whatever they have going on, it's usually quite mysterious. It can be quite intense as well. The mystery sign, and they're ruled by Mars and Pluto. Pluto is your transformation. It's your your whole rebirth. So they could have a complete transformation. And thinking back to when my brother was younger and all of that was going on, I took him out shopping, and he had a complete radical transformation in image. He went from being a long haired, like rock heavy metal person to being, really.
I remember you doing that with me.
Yeah.
taking me shopping and transforming me. Another skill of yours.
Yeah.
Right, we're into the final four. The final quadrant. We're going into the adventurous spirit, Sagittarius.
Yes. Well,
Adventurers.
the main thing with a Sagittarius that I would say is they love to explore all the different avenues, go down the rabbit holes and go and find out about life and adventures and take risks and things. But they can quite often start many things but not continue with. So they'll start face yoga and they'll start doing this and they'll start that and they'll start this and never fully do any of them, or finish it. So, full of enthusiasm and go sticking into it. But I would say, they tend to have quite a strong life force energy.
I was going to say, because they're adventurous, they're very quite youthful in themselves, aren't they?
Yeah. Usually, have a sense of humour as well, which I think is another thing that helps. So again, if you tend to be on the sort of, more serious side in your nature, then look towards that opposing side. Where can I laugh more? Where can I have a bit more?
And their opposite sign is
joy. Sorry?
I know we've gone through it all, but I've forgotten what their opposite sign.
Gemini.
Gemini.
Yeah, like I think I said earlier about one being, one would write the Bible and Sagittarius would write.
I know that we covered it, but I've got a brain like a sieve. It just goes in.
Yeah, so they've got that youthful Gemini as well to go towards. So that's their opposing sign. But it's always looking towards, where can I go a little bit too deep and too philosophical, and actually, how can I be a little bit more shallow?
Let's make this a little bit more surface level.
Yeah, I can get a bit too deep and meaningful about things. So, yeah. But I would say that, the Sagittarius, they tend to be like, have, multiple businesses and things like that they never like fully
finish.
Yeah.
Fabulous. So Capricorn, the wise elder.
The wise elder, yes. So, ruled by, well, I'll just say as Sagittarius are ruled by Jupiter. So that's why they tend to have that optimistic, much more optimistic energy about them. Whereas Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. And Saturn is the serious one. He's kind of like, I call him the party pooper, Saturn. I'm not saying that Capricorns are party poopers, but, again, looking at that higher and lower expression, it's very good for structure. Saturn represents structure. Capricorn is very much about our structure, our bodies. They will keep on going. So definitely, I think with a Capricorn, they can be quite competitive and want to get to the top. It's the sea goat, and that goat energy is the one that will keep on going till they get to the top. They'll get very frustrated and it'd be quite competitive, which can tend to make that they can end up overworking, working too hard, being a bit too serious and forgetting to have fun. And also, it's a Capricorn tends to not show how they're feeling. It's hard to know what a Capricorn's feeling. They might tell you what they're thinking, but not what they're feeling.
So with a Capricorn, slow down. Enjoy the wisdom that you've gained from all the achievements that you've had. Because I know a couple of Capricorns, and they achieve something and then they've moved on to the next thing before they've even kind of appreciated what they've just achieved.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, that was just one step on the ladder, moving on to the next one, moving on to the next one. And it's actually, give yourself a pat on the back for
Mm-hmm.
the things that you've achieved already. That, you know, the next hurdle is still there for you if you wish to take it, but enjoy the benefits of the achievements that you've already created in your life. Slow down, enjoy who you are and what you've created for yourself already, and then just gently move forward. It's not a rush, it's not a challenge, it's just
Yeah. And get into that fishtail a little bit.
yes,
The opposite is Cancerian, the water.
water.
Yeah. So, you know, to go maybe for a nice walk along the beach by the ocean and get some sea air.
Go for a swim.
Yeah. Even to go for a swim, yeah, would be good. But just to, you know, get that sort of sea and water, be by the water, that would, you know, just spend some time,
Yeah,
you know, just
fabulous.
doing a bit of nurturing or allowing yourself to be nurtured is another thing as well, because I think Capricorns struggle with letting anybody nurture them.
Yeah, interesting. Aquarius. Oh, we've touched on Aquarius so much because I am one, so that's kind of come up a lot. The ageless visionary. They are the visionary of the zodiac.
Forward thinking, yeah. So, you know, very good staying power. You know, they will stick with it, Aquarius. They will keep on going.
Oh yes,
going, but sometimes to their, you know, own
detriment.
detriment. You know, and it's like, you know, if it's not working, you need to stop now. Try something else. Yeah, they've got really good staying power, innovative, so that, you know, they're likely to create something, you know, something genius. They have a genius idea, or, you know, something that would help you. So I'm just thinking of, you know,
I just
from a
love it.
health perspective and eating from nature.
I've put here, they may struggle with the traditional aspects of aging and prefer to stay unconventional, in the unconventional and youthful spirit.
Yeah,
And I must say, I do fight it all the way.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And I'm just thinking about being innovative and things. So we had so Tom, my partner, he's an Aquarius, and he cooked us a really healthy dinner this evening that he went and foraged for some mushrooms today that are called chicken of the woods. So he went down there with his wheelbarrow, and he took all these canes with him, and I sort of looked at him this morning, what are they for? And he said, well, I've got a knife and I'm going to attach it to the end. So I've got this genius idea that I can then put it on a pole. It'll save me having to take a ladder, and that way I'll be able to cut it off, some of it off the tree. And he managed to do all of that and bring it back and to have a nice healthy dinner. You know, it's wheelbarrow walking along the edge of the river whilst some guy is walking past him like, what is he doing? He's not getting mushrooms in the conventional way that most people do by going to the supermarket.
Or even just, you know, picking them up off the ground, being careful of the ones that you're picking if you're doing that. But most people would see a little patch of mushrooms and pick them. No, Tom's sawing them off a tree.
Yeah. But also Aquarius, they love community. So, you know, it's no surprise that the ageless visionary that you are has this community. You know, has created a community. You know, it's exactly what you ought to be doing, and it's keeping you in your higher expression.
Yeah. Yeah, sharing. I think Aquarians need to share with people. You know, it's kind of so I mean, I do well on my own, but I do have to come out into the world and be with people. I'm quite lucky that my job, I'm surrounded by people.
Yeah.
This one and my day job. So yeah, very important for Aquarians to be with others. Last but not least, the gentle dreamer.
Yeah.
Pisceans out there.
And you know, Pisces is the end of the zodiac. It's when we have been through all our life stages and we return to spirit. So it is the most closest to spirit, spiritual. Boundaries are a thing, because it's when we float off and return to spirit and oneness. So, you know, creating boundaries for a Pisces would be a thing. They can tend to be a little bit chaotic and all over the place. Again, they're, you know, the modern ruler that we think of is Neptune, and Neptune is very dreamy. In the past week, since we actually had a full moon eclipse, partial eclipse in Pisces, the sign of Pisces, last week, and the moon, so the moon was full in the sign of Pisces, and he was stuck in between Saturn and Neptune, but he was next to Neptune, so conjunct, they call that. So he was in a conjunction with Neptune. So, you know, you had this full moon which affects the tides and makes us more emotional. We've got Pisces, which is watery and all over the place. We've got Neptune, which is dreamy and illusionary, and it can bring up disillusion. It can create illusion. So, you know, out in the world, I don't believe if it seems too good to be true, it probably isn't at the moment, you know. And you had Saturn on the tail end of that with the reality check. You know, this is all illusion and dreamy, and this is your reality check. So you had that sort of very conflicting energies in the past week or so. So yeah, Pisces definitely needs to ground, come down from the ethers and put your feet.
So your self-care is the ground.
And Pisces does represent the feet. They can have problems with their feet if they are too much in that lower expression. So reflexology is very good for a Pisces.
Also tap into your creativity, Pisceans.
Yes.
There's a creative side to you, and sometimes you might, if you're not using your creativity, I mean, you know, that doesn't mean that you've got to go and start writing a book or paint, you know, creating works of art, but just you know, find something that you find creative and just do it, even if it's colouring in something in a colouring book, you know, to be a little bit creative. That will actually help to ground you. And grounding energy is good for a Piscean.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, as well, if we were to look at our birth charts, then the fifth house area of our birth chart is all to do with it's kind of the Leo energy. So, you know, it's much more, it's playful, and the fifth house will show us how that area of our life is showing up for us. You know, what could we do to tap into that playfulness a bit more, where are we maybe being, you know, too serious? Because obviously, but whatever is in our chart, if we are tending to be too much in one area, and that's pulling us too much in one way, it definitely is useful to know your chart to see, you know, what part of me am I not tapping into that would bring me into a higher frequency, so I feel more joyful. And because that definitely is going to give us a more youthful, you know, playing,
energy.
where you're not playing.
It's almost sort of seeing where you're, getting in touch with where you're feeling right now,
Mhm.
and then just finding the energy or the pizzazz or something to do completely the opposite.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, is not always easy, but even if you even if you just think, well, this is how I'm feeling, but I could actually just, to turn that around, I would have to, think, even if it's just a thought of what the opposite feeling is to how you're feeling right now, then you're putting your mind into that positive state of energy
Mhm.
by even just giving the opposite of how you're feeling a moment's thought.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not getting caught up in it.
In it,
Yeah.
which as human beings we are want to do.
I think the only other thing that came up in my research, there was quite a lot of stuff around sort of midlife crisis type things, and in our lifetimes, Saturn and Uranus would be determinate at certain ages in our life. So we have what's called Saturn return, and Saturn is about maturity. So we will get to a certain age, and as that Saturn returns to where it was when you were born, I think around about sort of
29, 30.
29, 30, and then again around about sort of 58 to
60. Yeah.
those times we might find ourselves, maturing. So maybe some challenges and things will come up that we sort of sit and reflect and question our lives, and we change something around that time. And also Uranus around about the age of, I think, 42, because it takes 84 years to go around. So when you have a Uranus opposition around about 42, might have some radical change happening.
Interesting. Well, a lot of women going to menopause, that's pretty radical change.
Oh yeah, that as well. That comes up. But yeah, I mean, ultimately what we were sort of talking about is getting to know ourselves better.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the more we understand ourselves, and the more that we can sort of sit and, I quite often just sit and look at my birth chart and go, right, where am I experiencing this at the moment, and what can I tap into, and what have I forgotten about myself that would help now? So I have one particular aspect in my chart that sometimes when you feel like things are going on wrong and they're not turning out right for you, and you've got that sort of insecure feeling coming up, well, I actually have Jupiter on my midheaven, on my MC, and that basically means that I'm always going to land on my feet.
Nice.
It's always going to be okay for me no matter what. And I just go to that and I remind myself of that, and I go, right, it's okay, Kelly, because it's actually in my chart that, this is going to be a challenge, that's going to be a challenge, but that says that I'll always land on my feet.
Nice. Lovely. Right. So, gosh,
Fun.
that was a marathon. We've gone through all the star signs in succession.
Yeah.
A bit different from what I normally do, but
And it was very generous. Anybody else?
it was very generalized. To do your astrology properly, you would need to sort of have a proper birth chart done and really understand who you are as a person. And it's all about, once you understand who you are, you can make the choices that you need to make, I think. It's a tool to help you make choices. I think people also think that it's written in the stars. Everybody has personal choice, and it just gives you indicators of where you might find, in terms of where you might find yourself. You might find yourself in that situation, but you still have choices in that.
Yeah. it gives you some empowerment, self-empowerment. It will, if you're completely unaware and oblivious all the time and it just feel like it's just happening to you, in a way that's kind of right, because you're just being steered, but it's like puppeteered by the planets. Yeah. Right. But as we go through these different challenges and things in our lives, as we become more aware and more self-aware, if we can become aware of it, it gives us more choice in response to something. So yes, you could look at your chart and go, oh, do you know what, I can see a challenge coming up. We don't know how that's going to be, what it's going to be. You don't know any specifics like that. It's just a likelihood of that particular time there. There might be some more challenging aspects around that area of life. And if we know about it, then we can be, we can sort of respond in a better way. Take care of ourselves better at that time.
Yeah.
Why I recommend that people, get in tune with the moon cycles, because the moon moves every 2.5 days and it goes around every month from full to new and back to full again. And every new moon we get an opportunity to start all over again.
You were saying, actually, we were talking about this before we went live, and you said the best time to start a routine was when in the moon.
A new health routine, actually, in my research, was actually sort of from when the moon is full to when it's new again, between when it's waning.
Right.
So yeah, you can set new intentions at the new moon, but that's usually when you come up against, by the time we get to the first quarter moon, that's usually when the first sort of little challenge crops up. But yeah, I was just in all my reading, it said about a health routine.
Starting health routines when the moon is full.
Yeah, from the full to the new moon. Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, so I definitely recommend sort of just becoming more aware of it all. So that's what I have a podcast that goes out every,
I was just going to ask
Sunday, Monday. Yeah, every Sunday, Monday. And what I try to do is sort of let you know what that next week's energies are likely to be like. And I can't do it all personally for everybody, but if you come to a moon ceremony, we can dive into it a little bit more and I can tell you a bit more. But on the podcast, I just try and make some kind of, talking in plain English sense of it all. And I relate it to stories and things that have happened so that I can give you examples of, how we don't even realise that, it's astrologically spot on.
Yeah. I know the podcast is pretty much, I listen to the podcast on Audible. I know that it's on it's on iTunes podcast. It's everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, YouTube, and iTunes.
And the podcast is called
All Things Moon.
All Things Moon.
Lunar wisdom for everyday life.
Right. So I will put the name of the podcast in the blurb around this. I'll also put the YouTube link into it because that's quite I actually watched it on YouTube the other day because it was I was going through and it popped up and I thought, oh, I think I was the first person to like it on YouTube on Sunday night. So yeah, I'll put the link in for that. If somebody wanted to put a moon chart or something like that, just go to your website.
Yeah, just go to my website, kelliejones.me.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. For anybody who was watching, if you've got any questions, then I don't think there was any. I've seen that there were several people watching. So thank you very much for watching this evening. Thank you for being here. But if you've got any questions or anything, then please put them in the comments on Facebook, and then we can go back and have a look at and answer any questions that you've got that might come up if you're watching the replay for this.
Oh, and if you did want to start a new health regime and you live in Chelmsford, there is next week, 1st of October, there is a new studio opening in Chelmsford called Studio Libra. All about balance. Yeah, that is her ethos and values is about equilibrium and balance. So if you need a bit of that Libra balance, there's a new studio opening in Chelmsford, right in the middle of the city, on the 1st of October.
I'm going to come down and check that out. I think it should be good. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody on Facebook. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. I'm just going to quickly flip over and end the live. I'll see you all very soon.
Bye.